So we're out here at American Lake today. It is May the 4th. It's Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. Anyway, weather is overcast, cloudy, calling for some rain today. We don't see much in the way of rain just yet. And thankfully the wind has laid down a little bit. I just wanted to go through and show you kind of what we're up to today. We fish this lake a lot. We're fishing it again today because of duty obligations. Can't go too far from home. So over here, Pete's fishing, it's an Angler's West Talon rod. It's a 9.6, 2-to-8. He's got a 163 convector on there. And he's running that on the downrigger about 20 feet deep, which seems pretty deep for this time of year. But I have seen some stuff on YouTube and seen some fishing reports where they're actually catching fish at 20 feet. Water temp on the surface right now is about 57 degrees, which ought to be about ideal for trout in the top of the water column. But we'll see. We're spreading the depths like we usually do, starting out a fairly consistent 2-mile-an-hour troll. But we've got one rod at 20 feet. He's running this rod, a lead core, 3 colors of lead core in the water, with a pink trout tricks worm with an action disc and a small dodger on it. That's just a 9-foot kokanee black 4-to-10. It's got a Okuma cold water on it with the goofy left-handed crank up thing. I give Pete a hard time all the time about his Okuma stuff, but they really do make some great stuff for trout fishing and steelhead fishing for that matter. I've got a couple of good steelhead rods I really like. I'm going to go over here. This is a 2-pole lake, so we could fish 4 pieces of gear, but you get them too tight together and you end up with tangles and stuff. This rod I just bought. This is another kokanee black. It's a 4-to-10 kokanee black, but as you can see, it's very short. 6'6". I had no intention of buying a rod like this when I went down there, but I picked it up and it just felt good in my hand, so it was something I just wanted to tinker with. Normally, when we're out here, I'm running longer rods. I'm running 8 to 9'6", and I'm usually running a steelhead rod because I got a lot of them, and that's just what I like to fish. They're a little heavy for trout, obviously, unless you get into some really big trout. The lighter rods that are designed for fishing with bait, or fishing for trout, I'm sorry, are a lot more fun sometimes, so that's what I'm fishing today. I just put this little, it's a Abu Garcia Revo X on there. It's a very inexpensive casting reel, has no line count or anything like that, so I've just been pitching it around in the backyard and having fun with it, but I figured I'd come out and fish it today and see what I could do. So on this one I'm running about 100 feet back, so I had to measure that just by poles, right? And then I got an ounce of lead on there and a red and white metalhead fly behind an action disc, so it's trolling, if I had to guess, it's trolling probably around 12 feet deep at the speed we're running at, about a consistent 1.8 to 2. And that's what I'm running here. The other rod I've got on the boat is a 7-foot SST. This is actually my kayak rod, and it's got a 163 convector on it. And I'm running lead core on that. I got 4 colors of lead core on that with a very short fluorocarbon top shot. And at some point in the day I'll pull that out and we'll start trying the lead core. You don't consistently have to fish much more than 3 colors of lead core, which is why I set that one up the way that I did. Plus the low profile reel fits real well on that 7-foot SST. That's a 6 to 12 rod. This one's a 6 to 10 rod. On this one I have just 10-pound mono on it, straight 10-pound mono. I didn't mess around with anything else, braids or any of that stuff. You can obviously get more line on a small casted rod with braid if you use, let's say 20-pound braid. But I just went with straight mono on that because I'm just trying to rod out, casting it around, seeing what I can do with it. Really bought it to do some sight casting with. The moon phase, we're probably about, I would say 8 to 9 days past the full moon. So he is running the spoon over here at depth. There's a plastic there and a fly over here on the left. As we dial into what they're seeming to like, whether it's color or presentation, we'll probably go to fewer and fewer different types or vastly different types, and we'll consolidate the depths a little bit. So that's just kind of how we lay it out and what we do. We've been to this lake a lot of times, so we have some idea, but a lot of times I don't fish necessarily what I think is going to be the most productive thing. I like to try a bunch of different things. Obviously, as you've seen if you watch many of these videos, I like to try different rods and stuff just about every time I fish. So at some point today I may end up on the downrigger, you know, just depending on what we find for depths and what's going to be the most effective. We will do some videos and talk specifically about the different gear, maybe do a little bit of gear review, that kind of stuff, you know, after we've had a little bit more time with some of this stuff. Some of the pieces of gear we fished consistently a lot for a lot of years. The kokanee blacks, Pete's got kokanee blacks pretty much falling out of his garage when he opens the door, so that's what he likes to fish. And I give him a hard time about the Okuma gear, but it really is good gear for the price point, you know what I mean? Kokanee or Okuma does make some very high-end stuff too. I don't have any of it. About the most expensive rod I have from Okuma is probably their Guide Select series, which is around $140, $150, but they make expensive rods and expensive reels just like everybody else. Usually I'm not fishing Okuma, but today I happen to be pretty much Okuma'd out, with the exception of that Abu Garcia reel. I grew up fishing in the South, so when I was a kid, you grew up fishing fiberglass rods. I didn't even have a bait cast reel. I didn't see one until I was, you know, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. My dad finally got one. And those were all the old traditional round Abu Garcia bait casters, which I still absolutely love. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there on the market today that has a lot more in the way of, you know, brakes and things like that, if you're casting, that make them perform better in certain circumstances. But the old round Abu Garcia reels are still pretty good. Now you got to be careful because they make some offshore versions of their original Swedish reels that aren't really that great or built that well, but they still make some good quality products. A lot of it just depends on the price point that you want to pay for stuff. So your mileage may vary on that and you can do what you want, but you really do get what you pay for when you buy fishing gear. That's not to say that you really need to spend a lot of money, but especially if you're fishing for trout, something like that, you don't need a very expensive. You know, I've got rods that are 29 bucks and I've got reels that are rods that are hundreds of dollars. The same with reels. So I fish them all, enjoy them all. Just find something that works for you. You can get into it pretty cheap if you want to. And we'll be back with you when we catch some more fish. So we've been fishing about 10 minutes. Pete's got the first fish of the day hooked up here. Fishing 3 colors of lead core in the water. And you had what on there for a lure?
So I'm running the bubblegum Trout Tricks worm, and I got a small mini willow leaf, I believe he calls it reggae, on there for a dodger.
And you're running an action disc too, right?
And an action disc on the worm.
So that gives a little wiggle in the water.
Gotta like this time of the year.
That's not one they just did last week, probably.
No, look at the color on it too.
It's usually a pretty good time of year for the Trout Tricks worms, depending on where you're fishing. Some lakes they seem to like them, and other lakes not so much.
It is interesting how they can be on in one lake and not even get touched on another.
I've had the same experience with the flies. Some lakes are fly producers and others are not. I think it just really depends on hitting something close to what they're actually naturally foraging on.
So there's that worm.
Yeah, he's got some good color.
And then there's that reggae pattern mini willow leaf. Downrigger rod.
So Pete, you're running a trigger spoon on that downrigger rod, right?
Yep.
And that was 20 feet deep. So they're deeper than I would expect them to be this time of year, but you know, anywhere in that water column where they can find comfortable water and security, that's where they're going to be. So that one was 20 feet deep. Fishing with a lead core where you got to take 10 years to reel them in.
There's that spoon.
Another decent little trout. Just bought this brand new fly and I can't catch nothing on the spoon, right?
Yep. They're enjoying this water camp, aren't they?
Yeah, they are feisty. Now I got you around this rod, so just be aware when you. That That just looks weird, that short little rod in the downrigger. Trigger spoon's been the hot hand of the day so far. We got this is the third fish on it, I think, right?
Yep.
And he's fishing at 20 feet.
Little guy there.
Spoon's in the clear.
Oh, hit. That was a hit on that spinning glow.
No, they're not biting spinning glow. How far down did you go with that?
3 colors.
3.
Well, yeah, 155.
So
Oh, got one on. That little trout. Yep. Oh. I don't know, it's stripping me.
what the fuck happened?
Just stripped everything. Maybe got wrapped around the downriggers cable.
You lost your line and bait?
I lost everything.
How the fuck did that happen? Did we go over some divers? What happened?
It broke the tip off.
Oh my god. Well, ain't that a son of a bitch?
Well, guess I get rid of that and get a kokanee black.